Hi everyone. Thank you for joining another LinkedIn Live by Arctic Invent. My name is Govind, and I'm going to talk about drones in India. What a great opportunity ahead. Did you know that it is one of the most upcoming and most talked about industry and most talked about in media as such in lot of different, in a good or in a negative manner. Sometimes drones are talked about, getting some weapons from across the border. Sometimes it's talked about uh, transporting a medical supply over the kilometers without any traffic jams and so on and so forth, right? So drone is a lot being discussed, positive and negative, but what we are going to talk about is why it is a great opportunity for startups and why it is still a area where there are a lot of innovation needs to be done, right? So in today's session, we will just talk about some reality checks on markets, where it is heading, some regulations and innovation which has happened, some of the startups and what is the startup ecosystem in India, what are certain technology gaps in drone technology, where a lot of people are working on, how you can protect your IP, how you can identify your IP, in terms of your drone technologies and when you are thinking about your own startups. So that is what we are going to talk about today. So let's go right in the topic. It's a very short session. I would welcome your questions in the end. If there are any specific questions which I can answer now or later on the post, I would love to do that. All right. So first thing, why it is very exciting area. Drones has been growing at a very, very fast pace, especially starting from the defense areas. But now as it is getting more and more important in the consumer and day-to-day lives, the growth rate of drone is expected to be 57% CAGR, which is one of the highest technology growth rate that we can see. And it is a very big industry in US, China, and Israel, of course, are some of the country which has done a lot of innovation. There are a lot of companies and estimated, of around 20-30 billion dollar industry in the last fiscal. And India's share has been not so much. We are around 4-5% around in this entire worldwide market. Uh, when it comes to Indian market is still very small, 830 million odd, based on certain reports, growing at a 14.5%, which I feel that it's going to accelerate a much faster rate given the regulations which are now kicking in. Of course, government has also talked about how they want drone as a service to be one of the primary areas of development in various areas, from agriculture to defense and in all the other deliveries and so on and so forth. Government is promoting drones as a technology, drones as a service model. One of the very interesting step which has taken due to certain conflicts and looking at the future, government has decided to stop all the stop the drone imports from other countries, of course, with some exceptions around security and for the testing and some critical components. But otherwise, there is a blanket ban on drones in India from outside, right? So that kind of creates a lot of opportunities for startups who can get in this market, try to fulfill the demand which was earlier fulfilled by the imported drones and the technologies and so on and so forth. Of course, regulations, very briefly about regulations in India. All the drones are now needs to be registered under DGC and the Digital Sky platform. You can log in. You can also see what are the different drones which has been approved by DGCA and how you can acquire them. Of course, you can find it online and then start using that. Now the operator requirements are much clearer. It is now that someone needs to, if they want to be a pilot, they need to acquire licenses. And of course, there are very clear guidelines on where to operate, where not to operate. There are different zones: green, yellow, red zones, which are there available, and then you can use drones accordingly. Of course, for fun users and for drones which are very light and for toy purposes, they are not required under these regulations. But still, it's a very good step that there is a very much clarity on this topic. Now, coming back to looking at the startups in the area, what we found that there are around 700 odd startups, at least registered under startup MSME schemes, and based on uh, their stages, a lot is in the ideation phase, a lot is in the scaling phase, a lot in the early traction and the validation phase. So this is a split of some of the overall larger landscape in India on the drones companies. Um, the the list on the right is basically are the companies which raise some successful money round, or they have been making buzz around the VC markets and so on and so forth. Right, Sterlite Power, of course, is a part of a larger conglomerate, but Idea Forge, Skylark, IoTech World, Cron Systems, Vecros, a lot of these companies were able to secure some fundings and they have started to get into the market. So this is a good sign. It's still a very early days for drones ecosystem. 700 odd companies in the entire country is still, in my personal opinion, is very, very less. There are a lot of room for new companies and new players to come in this area and start working on the drone technology. Very briefly, if you talk about drones, there are different kind of drones. There are quadcopters, hexacopters, single rotor, fixed wings, tricopter, hexacopter, depending on the use and the payloads. There are different kinds of drones which are classified in depending on their size and their end use. And there are a lot of technology gaps. When we look at drones, there has been a lot of patent filings around the world. Of course, we'll talk about the trends in the following discussion. But when we look at drone as a large, there are a lot of technology gaps which exist, especially in terms of navigation, how the drone navigation could be more easier, more automated. The speed of drones, how it can be accelerating and de-accelerating. Battery is, of course, one of the major improvement area. How much it can go in a single charge. What if the battery dies, and so on and so forth. Then more technologies around vision based obstacle avoidance. How the a lot of software areas also to be improved upon in the drone areas. How the trajectory has to be, how it can be more in autopilot mode, how it can navigate the winds, how it can correlate with the weather data and kind of be more autonomous in that manner, how the landing can be more efficient, how it is at sensing the atmosphere, the risks, and so on and so forth. So these are a lot of technology gaps. If we look at that, drones as a technology, it's still under a lot of improvements. So one of the big opportunities for all the companies who are thinking, or there are already you are ideating on drone ideas, it's very good to pick up certain of these problems and try to solve these. So the list is not that. I mean, there's list a lot of business problems associated with it. The cost of a drone depend, especially when the semiconductor chip crises are there, and there are a lot of supply issues with the components. How it can be more cost effective, how it could be easily available and have an ease of access and ease of use, how much payload it can take up. Those are some of the technology and the business problem gaps that someone can look at. Security issues a lot. If you think about current news items and areas, of course, how to have more secure data around, or how to have more technologies around having security in terms of drone operations and so on and so forth, how the drone tracking can be done. Then there are a lot of indigenous problems that we need to solve. How to adapt a drone in those kind of applications, and develop those technologies around it. If there are a lot of dust around and there are a lot of things that needs to be done to adapt these drones which are coming from say China or from other countries, adapt those drones in more local environment. So a lot of innovation needs to be done. So this is an area which we are seeing that it is seeing a very consistent growth in terms of startups, in terms of fundings, in terms of patent and technology developments, and so on and so forth. These are some of the technology areas. This is just to show an example how the patent system is actually classifying that there are a lot of areas that smaller areas that needs work. That how the remote control system. This is just an example on how the drone technology is sub-classified in terms of the small areas of focus. So what we want to kind of identify, especially the startups who are listening to this, it is very important to identify a problem or the application area that you are solving, and then build around a strong use case and a strong business model around it. Because that's the way we have seen that most of the startups in other areas which are emerging have been able to successfully capitalize on the ideas and were able to raise funds or be able to be profitable using that, keeping that technology aligned with the business. Of course, personally, I felt this was one of the major areas when Swiggy will start delivering in India, and I'm sure, I hope it does not get stuck in the wires like this, and like we have kites stuck in these wires. I hope we don't see drones stuck in these wires at some point. But jokes apart, I think a lot of local problems needs to be solved when we talk about drone deliveries in India, and Swiggy is experimenting, Amazon is experimenting, and so on, because there are a lot of common general problems which are India specific, which needs solution in terms of drone technology. If we talk about technology trends, it is increasing, especially this is a trend in India that it is very much on an increasing path. Of course, some dips around 21, 22 because of the data gaps also, because the data is confidential for 18 months for patents. But otherwise, it's a very much growing area. Not, at least in India, the wide space of patents are still exist. There are a lot of room for filing patents and kind of protecting the local innovations that we have done. So that is very, very important to note. Roughly, there are around 2,000 to 3,000 patents in India. A lot of them have been granted as well. A lot of them are pending because, as you can see in the trend line, a lot have been filed in the last 4 or 5 years. If you are a startup, then the question is, what are the areas that I can protect my IP? There are 3 particular areas apart from, of course, your brand name. With respect to technology, you can think about three distinct IPs that you can think about. One is, of course, design, how your drone is look and feel. If there are a specific rotor design that you have done, there's a certain benefit, or the way it looks, or there are certain functional components which you feel are very, very important for your drone or your UAVs. You can file a design application. If there are technology elements, how you have solved a certain problem, you generated a certain algorithm or certain ways that it is becoming more efficient, solving a certain problem, you can file a patent around it. If you have written a lot of codes, or there are a lot of aesthetic elements, you would like to register as a copyright. So if there are any codes that you have written and you feel that, okay, I want to have an ownership on those codes from a protection point of view, you can also register a copyright around those codes as well. So these are the areas which we suggest to look at drones in terms of protection of IP. Roughly, the process is very much aligned to your business objectives and business goals. First is to, of course, identify where the innovation is happening, how it is different from other business models, how it is better than your competition, the way of technical or aesthetic innovation that has been conducted. Then we also need to evaluate whether it makes sense to have that protection, or does it really make sense to, or is it something that you can really protect. Then once you identify the unique aspect, then we figure out what are the markets that are more relevant for you. If it is India, or you are going to export in other countries, or what is it that you are looking as a market, be futuristic, be visionary about where your market could be, and then we decide and plan around what IPs would be relevant for you. And then you, of course, file your IPs, get it registered, and get it registered for your business, and generate enterprise value for your business. we have a drone technology discovery dashboard. I would love to share if you want an access. I'll quickly go through it in the call. But this is a dashboard where we have listed all the possible patents which are related to drones filed in India by different companies. And then you can kind of browse through these patents, understand how people are, how people are filing patents, how they are kind of getting registrations, what are the kind of technologies that they're protecting. So it gives a lot of ideas for your own innovations. It also lists different startups who have raised funds, so you can follow them, learn from their products and services, and see what incremental or disruptive innovation that you can do in the technology area. These are some of the very good examples. This is one of my favorite. This is by Blue Block School. These are actually, when we got to know about it, these are the drone related patents done by 5 to 10-year-old kids, where they of course talked about what are the possible areas where drone can actually used for doing a certain application areas. Of course, there are certain ideas associated. So these are some fun patents to look at, some very good ideas that came out, that how it can be used for providing security, how it can help rescue person, how it can also have medical assistance given by a drone, or how it can help in collecting the health parameters of the user or person who where the drone is there. So these are some of the areas which I was talking about, the technology gap, that there are a lot of areas where drones can be useful. This is one example where Tata has filed this patent, of course, from in the US, around the landing of a UAV on a truck. Seems to be more like a defense related, but again, these are some of the Indian companies who are doing really great work around drones and technology. So Tata is of course big in defense areas, so they have been developing a lot of technology. So there are a lot of Indian companies who are developing. So in case you are developing ideas or you are a startup, defense is one of the big areas. If you can solve certain problems using drones, or look at the problems which are very relevant to defense sector, and there are a lot of companies working in this area which would be happy to have your technology and take it to the next level. One of the companies I want to talk about today is Sharper Shape. It's a Finland-based company. They have been very early in the drone and how to use and have a specific drone application. Sharper Shape actually replaced the need for having a helicopter doing the inspection of power lines in Nordics and in Europe, where a lot of tree growth happens around the lines of power lines, which disrupts the power. So this system, they have created this system where they were able to modify a drone, and the systems, the laser cameras and other technologies, in a way that it was most suited for doing these inspection. It resulted in so much of savings for the authorities, and it went on to become a very successful company in the Europe, around generating revenues, and also using the drone in solving a very specific problem which earlier was very expensive to do. So that is something which startups who are watching this needs to understand, that if we can kind of create these kind of smaller use case, adapt the technology in those smaller use cases, it has huge potential to kind of scale and accelerate to the next level. Of course, this is one of my last slide, and want to also highlight how people are solving problems. So this is one of the drone patent design application, which was around mosquito repellent drone. So imagine that you have a drone which is kind of chasing every mosquito that you see around and kind of killing it or just repelling it. So of course, there are a lot of use cases that can be done with drones. With all this, thank you for your time. It's a very short LinkedIn Live that we have done. Any follow-up questions, I would love to have you leave your comment on, or if there is anything that we can help, reach out to me for any specific insights that you are looking for. I hope this was useful for you, and with that I would like to take your leave, and thank you for attending, thank you for being here.